Baton Rouge buzzed with anticipation on September 13, 2025. The city was alive from the early hours, as fans poured in from all corners of Louisiana and beyond, their excitement palpable in the humid southern air. Streets near the stadium were packed with tailgaters, grilling, laughing, and sharing stories of past glories, while the distant sound of marching bands echoed through the neighborhoods. Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, was a roaring sea of purple and gold, 102,321 fans ready for a high-stakes SEC opener. The stadium itself seemed to pulse with energy, every seat filled, every voice raised in anticipation. The sheer volume of the crowd was enough to send chills down the spine of even the most seasoned players. This wasn't just a game, it was a chance for #4 LSU to prove its dominance and for Florida to salvage a rocky season. For the Tigers, it was about defending their reputation and showing the nation they belonged among college football's elite. For the Gators, it was a shot at redemption, a chance to silence doubters and turn their season around. The memory of last year's Florida upset still stung, fueling LSU's hunger for revenge. Players and fans alike remembered the heartbreak, the missed opportunities, and the bitter taste of defeat. That loss had become a rallying cry, a source of motivation that echoed through every practice and every meeting leading up to this night. As the sun set, the stadium's energy reached a fever pitch, every chant a warning to the visiting Gators. The golden light faded, replaced by the glow of stadium lights, and the noise grew louder, a wall of sound that made communication on the field nearly impossible. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the weight of expectation and the promise of something unforgettable. LSU entered undefeated, ranked 4th, and heavily favored. The Tigers carried the confidence of a team that had yet to taste defeat, their eyes set firmly on a playoff run. The crowd believed, too. Every fan in the stadium held up 4 fingers, a symbol of their team's national standing and their hopes for a championship season. Florida, reeling from a shocking loss to USF, arrived desperate to prove they still belonged among the SEC elite. The Gators' season had not gone as planned, but this was their chance to change the narrative. Their fans traveled in force, determined to support their team through adversity, their faces set with resolve. The rivalry's intensity was unmistakable, the tension electric. Every glance between opposing players, every shouted cheer from the stands, added to the sense that something monumental was about to unfold. Coaches on both sidelines paced anxiously, knowing that every decision could tip the balance in a game with so much at stake. For LSU, it was about handling expectations and defending their home turf, where Florida hadn't won since 2016. The Tigers took pride in their fortress, a place where legends are made and visiting teams rarely leave victorious. The scoreboard flashed reminders of past battles, fueling the crowd's belief that tonight would be another chapter in their storied dominance. The stage was set for a classic SEC battle, physical, passionate, and raw. Both teams knew what was at stake: pride, rankings, and the right to claim supremacy in one of college football's fiercest rivalries. Every snap, every tackle, every roar from the crowd would matter. Saturday night in Death Valley, the show was about to begin, and the eyes of the college football world were watching. In this cauldron of noise and passion, legends would rise, hearts would break, and memories would be made that would last a lifetime. Before kickoff, tempers flared as several Florida players provocatively jogged near the LSU student section, exchanging words with both fans and Tigers. LSU players responded instantly, and a heated shoving match erupted at midfield. Coaches and police rushed in, forming a barrier to prevent chaos from spiraling out of control. No penalties were issued, but the message was clear. This would be a night defined by animosity. The pre-game scuffle set a volatile tone, promising a gritty, physical contest. Fans fed off the drama, their energy surging. The battle lines were drawn, not with chalk but with shoves and glares. The fight had already begun. When the game began, LSU's defense unleashed the aggression from pre-game into a dominant performance. The Tigers suffocated Florida's offense, pressuring quarterback djlagway into 5 interceptions, his first of the season. LSU's secondary seemed to anticipate every throw, stalling any Gator momentum. The defensive line collapsed the pocket, while linebackers and defensive backs swarmed to the ball. Florida's offense never found rhythm. Every third down felt impossible. The crowd's deafening noise only added to the Gators' struggles. LSU held Florida to just 10 points, cementing their status as one of the nation's top defenses. This was a statement. defense still wins championships. The Tigers bent but never broke, building their victory on relentless pressure and discipline. Sophomore safety Deshaun Spears delivered the game's defining play. Already with one interception, Spears struck again in the third quarter, reading Lagway perfectly and picking off a pass. He sprinted 58 yards for a pick six, sending Death Valley into a frenzy and giving LSU a crucial 2-score lead. Spears' heroics crushed Florida's hopes and electrified his team. His performance, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, announced his arrival as a defensive star. In a game where offense struggled, Spears' play was the turning point. Opposing quarterbacks would now be watching for #24 every snap. While LSU's defense dominated and set the tone early, the offense found itself searching for answers. The Tigers came into the game with high expectations, but from the opening snap, it was clear that moving the ball against Florida's aggressive defense would be a challenge. The offense struggled to establish any sort of rhythm, and frustration began to mount on the LSU sideline as drive after drive fizzled out. Quarterback Garrett Nussmeier managed to throw for 220 passing yards, but he was under constant duress. The Gators' pass rush forced him to make quick decisions, and LSU's receivers rarely found separation downfield. Big plays were few and far between, and the Tigers' offense often found itself facing long third downs after short gains or incompletions. The running game was nearly non-existent, with Florida's front seven consistently winning the battle at the line of scrimmage. LSU's running backs were met with resistance on nearly every carry, rarely finding open lanes or breaking into the second level. The lack of a ground attack made the offense one-dimensional and easier for Florida to defend. As the game wore on, LSU's offense became increasingly predictable. Third downs were a recurring problem, with the Tigers converting on only a handful of attempts. In the red zone, missed opportunities and conservative play calling led to field goals instead of touchdowns, leaving points on the board and keeping the game within reach for Florida. With the offense unable to sustain drives, special teams took on a greater importance. Punter Grant Chadwick was called upon repeatedly, and he delivered with booming kicks that flipped the field. His ability to pin Florida deep in their own territory gave the LSU defense the breathing room it needed to continue its dominant performance. Chadwick's performance was quietly crucial. Each time he stepped onto the field, he shifted the momentum, buying valuable time for the offense to regroup and try to find its footing. The special teams unit's discipline and execution helped keep the Tigers in control, even as the offense struggled to put points on the board. The Tigers' offensive struggles kept the game closer than many expected, putting extra pressure on the defense and special teams to deliver. But time and again, those units answered the call, holding the line and refusing to let Florida seize momentum. In the end, LSU's attack never found a true rhythm, but they did just enough to secure the win. It wasn't pretty, but sometimes grit and resilience are all it takes to get the job done. With under 2 minutes left, LSU clung to a 20-10 lead and faced a critical 3rd and 1, the call handoff to Caden Durham. After a night of frustration, the offensive line opened a seam and Durham burst through, breaking free for a 51-yard run. The play sealed the win, allowing LSU to run out the clock and sending the crowd into celebration. That single run accounted for more than half of LSU's rushing yards. It was the exclamation point the offense needed, a knockout blow after a grinding battle. The Tigers delivered when it mattered most. The victory was finally secure. In the post-game press conference, Coach Brian Kelly bristled at questions about his offense's struggles. He dismissed concerns about style points, insisting that winning in the SEC is all that matters. "Sorry that doesn't sound appealing," Kelly shot back. "We're trying to win football games." He pointed to Durham's game-sealing run and Chadwick's punting as proof of his team's resilience. Kelly fiercely defended his players, celebrating their grit and toughness. He made it clear, a hard-fought win is something to be proud of, not questioned. The message to his team and the media was simple: winning ugly still counts. For Kelly, this was SEC football at its finest. The bad blood didn't end with the final whistle. After LSU's victory formation, a frustrated Florida defender knocked Nussmeier down, sparking another brief confrontation. Nussmeier responded with a defiant nod toward the Florida bench, igniting more words between players. Coaches and officials quickly intervened, preventing escalation. The handshake line was icy, the rivalry's animosity still raw. For LSU, it was satisfaction mixed with adrenaline. For Florida, frustration and defeat. The night ended as it began, contentious, emotional, and unforgettable. LSU's 20-10 win propelled them to 3-0, a start that electrified their fan base and sent a message to the rest of the college football world. The Tigers, who had faced doubts after a shaky preseason, now stood tall as one of the few undefeated teams in the conference. This victory didn't just add another number to the win column. It solidified their status as national contenders and gave the team a surge of confidence heading into the heart of their schedule. The energy in Baton Rouge was palpable, with fans and players alike believing that something special was brewing. LSU proved they could win ugly, relying on a relentless defense and opportunistic special teams when the offense faltered. Their ability to adapt and grind out a tough win showed a maturity that championship teams need. The emergence of Deshaun Spears as a dynamic playmaker gave the offense a new dimension, and his breakout performance hinted at even bigger things to come. Clutch plays from Durham and Chadwick showcased the team's depth, as different players stepped up when it mattered most. This kind of resilience and versatility is what separates good teams from great ones. With this win, LSU exercised last year's demons, putting painful memories behind them and proving they could handle the pressure of big games. The team gained valuable experience for the SEC gauntlet ahead, learning how to stay composed and execute under the brightest lights. Their coaches emphasized the importance of staying hungry and focused, knowing that tougher challenges still awaited. For Florida, the loss was crushing. Falling to 1-2, their season teetered on the brink. The Gators entered Death Valley hoping to turn their season around, but instead left with more questions than answers. The frustration was evident on the sidelines, as players sat in stunned silence and coaches tried to rally a shaken team. The pressure was mounting, and the margin for error was shrinking fast. 5 interceptions exposed their young quarterback, who struggled to find his rhythm against LSU's aggressive defense. Each turnover chipped away at Florida's confidence and momentum. The offense was stifled at every turn, and injuries to key players only made things worse. The Gators couldn't establish the run or protect their quarterback, and the physical toll was starting to show. But beyond the injuries, deeper issues loomed: lack of execution, missed assignments, and a sense that bowl eligibility was slipping further away with each passing week. The defeat highlighted the growing gap between Florida and the SEC's elite. As LSU celebrated their triumph, Florida was left to reflect on what went wrong and how to salvage their season. In the locker room, the mood was somber. Coaches addressed the team, urging them to regroup and find answers before it was too late. The road ahead would be tough, but the season was far from over. 2 programs, 2 very different paths, drawn sharply under the lights of Death Valley. For LSU, hope and momentum. For Florida, a crossroads and a challenge to rise again.